not even old. Stop it.
I'm old, man. What you talking about, bro?
You
I've
look
been doing
good.
this 30 years, B. 30 joints.
How old are you?
47.
Oh.
Icespice. Why all the hate? We're going to do a deep dive today and figure out the mysterious rise of Icespice, how she's gotten to the top so fast, why she's gotten accusations as an industry plant, and we're going to talk about some other topics in the female hip-hop community. Be sure to hit the like button, the subscribe button. My name is Kaylin, and you are here with Kaylin Writes. So let's jump right into it. Icespice, why all the hate? Talent and good looks are a recipe for envy. Nicki Minaj, Megan Thee Stallion, Cardi B, and Lotto all took between 4 and 7 years to achieve mainstream viability. Today, it isn't uncommon for a solo artist to ascend the ladder to massive fame in under 4 years. In fact, the time it takes to become enormously popular is steadily decreasing, with some artists reaching global success in under 3 years. To give you some perspective, it has been much more common for artists of every genre to regularly spend as much as 10 years developing their craft before they reach mainstream success. This, of course, takes into account the time necessary to learn one's instrument or vocal craft, write popular music, perform, and eventually garner enough fans to become a thing culturally speaking. In the past, the absence of the internet and social media platforms now common prevented artists from reaching larger audiences with their material. Of course, for bands and groups, the time to reach success is typically lessened due to the collective musicianship and experience of each of the members. Black Sabbath, for instance, released Sabbath Bloody Sabbath after being together for between 3 and 4 years. You guys will remember in '69, Black Sabbath comes together with Ozzy Osbourne and the other members, and around '73 or so, they released Sabbath Bloody Sabbath. Icespice, Coi Leray, and Lotto are 3 of the youngest and most recent female hip-hop stars to quickly achieve massive fame. In some regard, they all follow in the footsteps of their still culturally relevant but older contemporaries Nicki Minaj, Megan Thee Stallion, and Cardi B. Out of the above-mentioned women, Icespice has become most fascinating due to the speed with which she amassed her popularity. And she's managed to achieve enormous success with just a handful of singles, arguably just one, in about 1 year, with about 1.5 years of work leading up to this. Excuse me, getting a phone call, decline. So you guys will remember Icespice really came to prominence, well, I won't say prominence, but she kind of blew up on the scene with her Buzz It challenge. You remember that Erica Banks had that song, Buzz It, Buzz It. But Icespice had one of the better ones and received a lot of attention for it. She's got this crazy story about when it happened. She was with, like, I think her mom and her sister or something like that. And they were all talking about, oh my God, like the views are going up. You know, so. But yeah, that really opened the door for her. And then after that, she had like SoundCloud singles, and she just kind of put out a few little pieces here and there. And the rest is history. Her critics claim that her fame is due to her skin color. She's light-skinned with naturally curly red hair, an accusation of preferential treatment, and that she lacks true talent. Let's address the first claim, that her fast rise to the top of the hip-hop world is due to her looks. While Icespice likely attributes her success to her talent, it is apparent, considering our society's preoccupation with female sexuality, that her looks have much to do with her rise. And no one would doubt that. The girl is obviously drop-dead gorgeous. Generally speaking, there is a common consensus that beauty is subjective. After all, no two people have the exact same beauty preferences. Yet, just as common is the realization, conscious or unwitting, that there is an elemental component of objectivity in beauty. Namely, that there is something which makes beautiful people, well, beautiful. I won't go into the various theories on what makes something or someone beautiful. However, if you're interested, a good place to start might be with the 18th century painter William Hogarth's work, The Analysis of Beauty. He lays out in it 6 main principles that he feels make for a beautiful aesthetic. For now, it's enough to admit that the most popular women in hip-hop have gotten their fame due in large part to their appearance. Otherwise, Nicki's, Megan's, Lotto's, Coi's, Cardi's, and Icespice's follower counts in the millions would be illogical. Why else are these women being followed if not for their beauty in some regard? Sex sells, after all. And it is in a woman's favor to be sexually appealing if she wants to be a successful female hip-hop artist. Now, we have to think about this, right? Like, how many female hip-hop artists do we know that are not attractive, generally speaking? And we just talked about how beauty is subjective, but generally speaking, there is something attractive physically about these women who are at the top of the charts. Not even just in hip hop, but any genre of music or art. It helps if you're attractive. Ice Spice is obviously attractive, just as all of the women in the hip hop industry are, for the most part. This isn't to say that these ladies aren't talented rappers or writers. For what it's worth, many of them have very attractive deliveries and rhythmic rap cadences. But let's face it, very few people are following these women because of their bars, with the exception of maybe like Megan and Cardi. They are beasts. Even Lotto can rap her ass off. Lola Brooks raps her ass off. For the record, to get into the industry, you do have to have talent. It's subjective, though, what people consider talent. One person may be like, oh, they can't rap, or another person may be like, oh, they're the best rapper I've ever heard. You do have instances where the person clearly is not musically talented, but they generally don't last long. Their look, or more politically correct, their image is what stands out most about them. In his Loud and Quiet article, Daniel Dillon Ray, in writing about the witch hunt that many female artists face as a result of industry plant accusations, says, quote, I use the above term witch hunt specifically because the overwhelming majority of artists attacked and accused of being plants are young women. The idea being that they are not capable of attaining talent, fame, and success on their own at such a young age with no help and therefore are immediately suspect. End quote. Ice Spice, as you'll know, has received much backlash and criticism, including accusations that she is an industry plant. An industry plant, for those unfamiliar with the term, is a recent cultural phenomenon. It describes an artist who is given high investment priority by a label or backer such that their rise to stardom appears to be immediate and unjust, say the advocates of the industry plant theory, to the masses. The backing and support the plant receives is in contrast to the almost non-existent support that artists who grind from the bottom and gain popularity on their own receive. The result is that an artist must demonstrate to the public that they earned their stardom with hard work, not just talent. Unless an artist can prove they were dragged for years through the mud by shady promoters, ate ramen noodles for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, did shows where no one showed up, and spent years living out of their car or on the streets, they aren't taken seriously. Having well-developed talent doesn't gain you recognition as a legitimate artist anymore. You have to show struggle. And in fact, it would seem that with today's fast-paced turnover of artists, having talent actually works against you. Talent makes you too privileged. I know, strange. So here's the deal. Particularly in America, we have this idea, this fascination with solving poverty. So we give millions and billions of dollars away to different countries to fight hunger and disease and all of these problems that plague humanity. And that's great. Over time, poverty has decreased in America, right? There are more wealthy people now than have ever been in history. The likelihood that somebody is living in extreme poverty, I mean, there's poverty and then there's like extreme poverty. No food, no clothes, no shoes, no running water, no access to education, no TV, no cell phone, no home, just nothing. The chances that someone is going through that same situation is so low in this country that we would have to think that the majority of the artists who are getting picked aren't going to come from these circumstances. So no, they're not eating ramen noodles every night. No, for the majority, they're not living out of their car. No, for the majority, they're not going through the worst situations to where there isn't some privilege already built in to being an American citizen. There is already privilege built in to being an American citizen. Just about anyone who's getting picked is going to be privileged to some extent. This is all to say that the chances that your favorite artist is going to come from the mud are very low. I'm a fan of talent, and well-developed talent at that. I mean, who wants to hear an artist that makes poor music in the genre that they represent? Furthermore, to those who believe Spice is untalented, it's important to recognize that some level of talent is required to even draw the attention of major backers, industry, or private. For our purposes here, talent can take the form of charisma, as in the case of the cringe artist 6ix9ine. There must be some factor that stands out and says to those who would invest, this person or group will make me a lot of money. So there are a lot of people who don't think that Ice Spice can rap. I think she can, because to be able to rap, you just really need to be able to stay on beat and you need to have something to say. Whether the lyrics are conscious, well thought out, or lyrically elevated on some majestic world-changing level, that's up to debate. What we look for when we say someone can rap is the ability to say words and stay on beat. It helps if you have a cool voice. To me, she's winning in all of those categories. The reason many more talented acts don't get chosen is likely due to suboptimal luck, timing, and chance, not a conscious decision to pass over them. When there is a conscious decision to pass over an artist, it does not mean the artist isn't talented. It may mean that the label sees more value in another artist. So there's all of these people talking about how there's way more talented people than Icespice, and why did she get picked, and the whole industry plant logic. Well, she got picked because she got picked. Yes, she's attractive. Yes, she raps well. Yes, it didn't really take her that long. But in today's world, we forget that technology plays such a huge part, and I'll get into that. With the many millions of both talented and untalented artists labels see on an ongoing basis, the likelihood that any one artist receives game-changing attention and backing is slim at best. I mean, you got to think, there's millions of artists out here that labels see. They're constantly scrolling past Instagram feeds and Facebook pages and YouTube channels and Twitter feeds of just like artists. Everybody's doing art. Everybody's making music. What are the odds that one person, that any one of these people that labels or investors see, they're going to pick? What like the odds of that are very slim. And it is like a popularity game. Who's most popular? Who has a look? Who can rap or sing or dance? It's all about having an it factor. I don't agree that there is the it factor. I think that there are several it factors. And Icespice is one of those artists who has an it factor. She's not the best rapper ever to live, but she has a look about her. And she has an exotic look about her. So it's not that light-skinned girls get picked first or that dark-skinned girls get picked last. It's at any point in time who is seen by someone that has potential to invest, and how likely is it that this person is going to be attractive to their audience. You can take Lizzo, for example. Lizzo probably isn't the most attractive female on the planet. She's still extremely popular. So the whole idea that, and is she an industry plant? Well, she had a single that was like steadily doing numbers for like 2 years or something like that helped propel her to fame. And she also plays the flute extraordinarily well. And she has charisma. And she can sing. And she can rap. I mean, she's got several it factors. And I think all you need to really have is one major it factor that helps somebody say, okay, this person can make me a lot of money. So when one manages to capture the attention of a label, it's illogical and just plain silly to deem them a pre-chosen plant. Labels and investors are obligated to put their money behind someone if they want to remain economically viable. So critics have drawn attention to Icespice's giant celebrity status, noting that she's only had one single, Munch, that has done well. Typically, before an artist has a popular mainstream single, they've been at their craft for a long while, unless, of course, they have help, goes the argument of the industry plant theorists. However, the most glaring defense against the notion that Icespice is a plant is that she actually gained popularity on her own for about 3 years before signing to Capitol Records in September of 2023. This is in addition to the fact that she had been practicing and writing her own material since high school, which she talks about. I just actually saw a quick short of her talking about how she's always written, and she was influenced by people like Lil Wayne, and like going way back in high school, this girl was like on her iPhone typing up lyrics. What goes largely unaddressed are the enormous and wide-reaching effects on an artist's climb that social media has. Today, you can post a video on your TikTok or IG account and the next day have millions of views. As we talked about before, this is exactly what Isis, that is her name, this is exactly what she did. This is especially the case if you are attractive and sell sexuality. Icespice first became popular with her Bust It Challenge video for these very reasons. For those that don't think she's musically talented, she can actually rap, and on beat at that. While some admire the offbeat styles made popular by artists like Blueface, traditionalists who actually like to understand the words a rapper says, and those who like their rappers to keep up with the beat, are no doubt delighted that icespice accomplishes both of these feats. The thing that gets me about the whole industry plant thing is that if you believe in this concept, and I personally don't, on some level, everyone who becomes popular, with the exception of the most extreme gangster hip-hop artists, is necessarily an industry plant. Everyone. Side note, I excuse gangster artists from the industry plant conversation because labels have often shunned them or dropped them from their contracts. Jay-Z, T.I., and Nipsey Hussle are 3 examples of artists who didn't receive strong industry support or investment in their earlier careers. You'll remember Jay-Z had to sell music out of his trunk and start his own label because the record labels that he was going to and shopping his material to didn't think that he was talented enough. T.I. Had a record deal, didn't make that many sales when he came out with I'm Serious, I think, and got out of the deal and ended up later signing again with another label, but he basically had to push himself. And we know Nipsey Hussle's story. This guy grinded on his own for years just to get his music to the point where people paid attention and he could get a record deal. So as a result, these artists and others like them have often been responsible for funding their own careers through drug money, direct sales of their music, or both. If there is a such thing as a plant, there is not. They aren't it. So here's why I don't believe in industry plant theory. What does a plant need to grow? Sunshine, water, nutrients, the right environment, proper positioning. In the same respect, it takes at least $150,000 of capital to break a hip-hop artist. Some estimates are as high as $500,000. And who has that kind of money lying around? Typically, it's labels and private investors. So, any artist that makes it into mainstream consciousness likely does so with huge financial help from these entities. This is the only way for them to get the massive artistic nourishment they need to grow into national and international stardom. So, if a label sees somebody that they want to invest in, they're going to invest in them. If you have a plant and the plant needs nourishment, you're going to give it the nourishment it needs so that it can grow. It's just logical that an artist who reaches mainstream levels of notoriety is going to have some kind of help, some kind of backing. And more importantly, if the artist does not have a basic appeal, which I call artistic potency, then they won't do numbers, especially in the long term, no matter what kind of investment they receive. This is one reason why labels continuously look for new artists to fund. The modern, ultra-visible, high-grossing female hip-hop artists have all had backing and investment, even if they didn't take off as fast as icespice did. Therefore, if icespice is a plant, all of them are. As an example from the male side of the coin, Lil Bow Wow came to prominence under the aegis of Jermaine Dupri. In a March 2022 Q&A session on Twitter, Bow Wow said in response to several commenters who asserted that Dupri made him, quote, "Made who? Ha 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 ha. He made Crisscross. He ain't make me. I ain't go through artist development. I ain't have to be taught how to rap. This ain't the TV show, The Rap Game. I came ready. No disrespect, but he ain't teach me nothing about this business, bro. And that's real. He don't give advice." Again, that is Bow Wow talking about Jermaine Dupri. Notice, Bow Wow mentioned The Rap Game. The show was a competition-style program in which contestants were pitted against each other and forced to rap to prove who was best. Lotto, who was not considered an industry plant, won the first season. Again, Lotto's not considered an industry plant, yet she won the first season. This is strange because at least Bow Wow seems to think that appearing on a game show and gaining one's popularity that way is an indication that one didn't grind in the streets for their spot. Interesting. Bow Wow is saying exactly what Chance the Rapper has said. The two, and others like them, while having backing early in their careers, insist their creative talent overshadows the fact that they had help. I would agree. I think it doesn't make sense to disregard someone's natural talent and natural ability. If I see anyone that has natural talent or natural ability to do something, I would definitely want to help them, right? Now, if I see someone that doesn't have talent and doesn't have ability, I have less drive to help that person, even if I can. And it doesn't mean that I don't care. It just means that I see something that could work. We're all opportunists on some level. The argument should be less about someone being a plant or not, and more about whether labels are opportunistic or not in their approach to who they help get to the top. While it isn't often, I think merit should be what decides one's fate. Both Bow Wow and Chance are talented. Talented could also be considered appealing. Enough artists to have achieved their status. Their luck in being discovered or helped early doesn't negate that fact. If a label happens to see you, or you have connections that allow you to be seen, and you possess talent, why should you be denigrated for that? Luck doesn't preclude talent. I think it is also important to note that while there's no short supply of talent in existence, everyone is not talented. Just about everyone who's made it to mainstream level notoriety is talented in some regard, though. You don't reach such heights and stay there without having a definitive, easily identifiable ability. In other words, the fact that you don't vibe with an artist doesn't mean that they have no talent. A lot of people don't like Icespice for whatever reason. It doesn't mean she's not talented, that she can't rap, that she doesn't deserve to be where she is. There's something about her that's appealing. She has enough pizzazz, enough attraction, enough rap ability, enough stage presence, whatever it is you want to call it, enough it factors to have garnered the kind of attention and support and love that she's gotten. Good fortune also plays a part, though. Those who become mainstream sensations are lucky in some sense. But this is just how the game goes. What's often forgotten is that you have to be in a position to be noticed in the first place, which Icespice did. She got herself into a position where she could get noticed. Whether she used her looks or not, that's how the cookie crumbles. Additionally, there are many artists who comprise what I would call the upper middle class of the music industry. These people have been grinding for a long time and have garnered considerable success, enough to comfortably live doing what they love, yet they aren't as well known as mainstream artists. One can have a strong fan base and just service them without servicing the whole world. Artists that come to mind, Tech Nine. Tech Nine is one of these people who has probably all of the industry connections, but he's not beaming down your TV shows. He's never in any hip-hop award shows. You rarely hear from him. If you're not in his fan base, you probably don't know about him, but the people in his fan base think Tech Nine is like the best rapper in the world. And like the guy is probably, he's one of the greatest rappers to ever live, hands down. The man like to rap, but he's not into looks and all of these other metrics that make someone a mainstream viable artist. But in terms of his fan base, he services them wonderfully and has millions of dollars because of it. And that's important. A lot of people don't think about that. Stop comparing. No one knows when an artist will blow. Lastly, in regard to the timing of an artist's success, particularly Icespice's, there's no official date that can be identified as to when an artist has made it. Discussing an artist's blow phase is a nuanced topic. By blow phase, I mean the period when it becomes clear that the artist has enough momentum to make them a highly visible star. To determine the blow phase, we generally look at a number of measures. Albums or records sold, although this is an outdated metric in the modern streaming era. Streaming numbers or plays, number of projects produced, collaborations, and placements on popular charts like the Billboard 100. Like it, love it, hate it, the Billboard 100 is the industry standard for how songs are charting. Doesn't mean they're always right, but it's the standard. Because every artist that gets popular has songs that chart better over time, we generally can't say that one artist arrived as culturally relevant before another. Additionally, an artist may have lots of fans, but not be considered mainstream, even though they're doing mainstream numbers. Sometimes it takes a while to catch on and become a household name. So, again, artists like Tech Nine, Action Bronson, and other artists like that, they've done millions, they've sold millions, they've made millions, they've toured all over the world, and they're doing large numbers, but people just don't know about them in mass, right? Like Tech Nine isn't in any of the modern mainstream conversations, even though everybody who knows hip hop and rap and who's at the top of the game knows who Tech Nine is. It's crazy, right? Let Icespice live. While Icespice has set the world on fire with her blazing rise to the top, it is important to remember that hip-hop is a young person's sport and the lifespan of a popular artist is typically less than 5 years. In order to reach the status of, say, a Nicki Minaj, Spice will have to remain dedicated to her craft and grow with her fans. As Icespice's fans age, they will look for her to put out material which speaks to her evolution as a human. If she cannot service them as time passes, she will become a relic like just about every other hip-hop artist. That said, it's necessary to give her time and space to grow and see what happens. Final word goes to the industry plant conspiracists. Let's say you want to grow a beautiful garden. You go to a nursery to pick out a few plants, right? And you'll likely pick out the most attractive, healthy-looking plants. And you'll leave behind the ones you perceive to be subpar, right? And you would be correct for doing so. It's your garden after all. So maybe icespice is just the attractive plant that got picked over all the others. And wouldn't it be silly to blame the plant for that? So thanks guys for listening. If you want to get a transcript of the episode, you can visit my blog on Medium or Substack, and you can find the script for this YouTube video. Please again, hit the like, subscribe button, check out the links in the bio, and stay connected with me. I'll be putting out more content like this very soon. Thanks.